Katie Castagna and I have been friends for several years. I've learned a lot from her, and I really appreciate your friendship and leadership, especially over recent years as we've all faced the pandemic response and recovery. Today, Katie is going to introduce her panel, moderated. She's actually on our board and serves as the president of United Way Monterey County. Please welcome Katie Castagna.
Can you hear me? There we go. Good afternoon, everybody. And I am thrilled to be moderating this panel. And I feel like we have a visual representation of partnerships. I think we're the biggest panel, right? And so I brought some of my closest friends here to talk about partnerships and specifically representing philanthropy and social services and really what that has looked like at this point in time as we address our economic recovery. My name is Katie Castagna. I'm the president and CEO for United Way Monterey County. And with me today, I'll introduce my panelists and then tell you a little bit about what we want to get to. We have Valentin Lopez, who is with the Ama Mutsun Land Trust, and I hope I'm saying that right. Thank you. And then Susan True with the Santa Cruz Community Foundation. We have Christine Dawson from the Monterey County, the Community Foundation for Monterey County, and Francine Rod from First Five Monterey County. And then we have Gary Byrne from the Community Foundation of San Benito County. Small and mighty San Benito County. I want to make sure that we give them a good spotlight for hearing about what's going on in San Benito. But our theme that we want to go into now is we know a lot of amazing work has happened and results that we have pulled together through the pandemic and the crises that we've all faced. And what has been accomplished has been amazing, but it's also lifted up some real deep inequities and some systemic problems and barriers in our communities. What I want us to focus on in the next 30 minutes is really not just what we've been up to, but how we've been working differently and what the role of the power of partnership has played in the work that we've been doing in the recent couple years. So who would like to start us off with a few comments about, and I'll just say, for example, with United Way, we have been involved in many collaboratives like the rest of you. We've gone virtual and met lots of folks that we become very close to, even though we're not always sharing the same space. It's such a treat to be in the same space. And the lessons about organizational resiliency and the need to move quickly and develop your own resources and look at equities not only within the work that we do, but within our own organization and our staff and leadership. Those are some of the things that have been, really highlighted, I know, from our perspective as United Way. But let me put it over to you, Gary, given my San Benito plug.
The small one first.
How's it been for you?
It's been very interesting. I'll give you an example. This morning I came in, and the second person I met was somebody who was here for the first time at the conference and not from the area. And I introduced myself, and I'm from Community Foundation San Benito County, and they look at me, where's that? And that's something that we get a lot of because we're a rural community, but we're a bedroom community. And a lot of people don't know we're 65,000 people, but a huge proportion, 42% of our population, commute out of the county every day. So as a bedroom community, we're serving our neighboring communities, and it goes to one of the challenges is housing. Okay, so we have another 5,000 people who commute into our county every day because they can't afford it. And in the area of the pandemic, it was one thing that it highlighted our relationships with our local partners. And that was probably the best thing that ever happened to us. We worked very collaboratively with the county, with the city, with the Office of Emergency Services, with Gavilan College, and that made a huge difference. We were able to be on the ground and know what the needs were. So, for a small foundation, we did 3 rounds of granting that we would never have done before, and we were able to give out grants to over 90 nonprofits, which was phenomenal for us.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you. What about you, Francine, and First Five?
So First Five has 3 roles in the community. One is to serve as a funder and also a direct service provider and support. We also help with capacity building and technical assistance, which now someone taught me the term transformational assistance, which I thought was a good one. And then systems change and an advocate for children 0 to 5 and their families. And for us, I think what happened in 2020 really shook us up in terms of not only the pandemic, but the racial awakening. And it really had us take a closer look into how we were working ourselves, and our own internal way of being, and also how we were collaborating in the community. And so we felt like we needed to meet immediate needs of families, but also really start to look at systems change in a deeper, more intentional way. And what were the problems that were holding our families in place? And how were we really working with folks with lived experiences and people in the community who needed to be at the table or else they were going to be part of the meal, right? That's a saying that people say. It's like, if you're not at the table, you are part of the meal. And so how were we intentionally, authentically co-creating with community and making sure that the voices were lifted up and the power was shared? So that was a big a piece of work for us, and so we started collaborating a lot more with organizations, with like SIDE, we're one of the groups that help to support the work that SIDE is doing, and also Building Healthy Communities had a great experience in terms of learning with Colibri, that's a hummingbird in Spanish. And so we had some experience with hummingbirds earlier today, and again, that's the same kind of an idea of really seeding, and it stands for Collaboratively Organizing for Liberation, Inclusion, and Breaking Racial Inequities. And through that experience of really collaborating with communities with lived experience, we have redone our strategic plan, and we are looking at deeper ways of really changing the systems that are holding the families in place. Last year, we served over 20,000 folks with immediate assistance and or technical assistance and support.
Thanks, Francine. And Christine, how about the Community Foundation? You've done amazing fundraising and grant making, and let's hear from Monterey Foundation.
Yes, it absolutely changed the entire way that we do business. Responding to the pandemic, with our COVID Relief Fund, Monterey Peninsula Foundation was our first partner right out the door, and we were able to raise over $4.1 million in direct assistance to families in need. And in that, we were, thank you. Which was actually incredible. I mean, that's just one of the many projects, because as we all know, the pandemic really highlighted the inequities in our county, and our grant making then shifted to direct needs, food insecurity, PPP equipment, child care for essential workers, seniors, those who are homeless, those with special needs. Our nonprofit partners also made those shifts as well. The Boys and Girls Club, Palenque Arts, they were supporting families with meals, with gift cards. So everybody, we just worked together, bringing in our partners, bringing in our nonprofits to really meet the needs. On top of that, the county worked with us as well as all the other public-private sectors throughout Monterey County, ag, hospitality, education, healthcare, community-based organizations, government, and cities to help lower the spread of COVID-19. So through the VITA project, the Virus Integrated Distributive Aid, we were able to support 120 community healthcare workers with testing, resources, and vaccinations. In fact, the city of Gonzales was at one point during the pandemic the #1 most vaccinated city in our country. So we are really, really, really proud of all that work. We also shifted to emergency assistance. We worked very closely with the business and hospitality sector and the Monterey Peninsula Chamber of Commerce, setting up funds to support employees, especially in the hospitality sector. Many of those businesses set up funds to have emergency assistance funds directly for their employees who were not able to work during that time period. And we were also to shift not only just from grant making, but to direct community impact investments. And these are loans that went to small business owners who were not eligible through the Payroll Protection Act or the CARES Act. These were small businesses that we partnered with through the El Pajaro CDC, Meta, CalCoastal. We provided training and support and technical assistance. We also worked with California FarmLink as well. So a lot of individuals, businesses that did not qualify for that type of assistance, we were able to do. And then finally, there's been a lot of talk around CIDE. I'm so pleased that most of the partners are here and working with Dr. Brenner and Dr. Pastor to do the Salinas Inclusive Economic Development Initiative. This is a collective journey. 9 community-based organizations with a shared commitment to build a more inclusive and equitable community economy for families in the communities of the Salinas Valley. So we're just really pleased. Not only is it just shifting the way that we do business, but also bringing in so many wonderful partners. Thank you.
Thank you. And then on to Santa Cruz. What's it looking like for the Santa Cruz Community Foundation?
It looked very similar to my colleague Christine's comments. We were also very honored to be trusted with about $10 million in COVID relief funding that went directly to community members through the most amazing nonprofit partners. And I just kind of want to pause for a minute, because as we hear about all this, you know, whether it's the Equal Access Initiative, which we were super proud to be a part of, or all of this rental assistance, helping childcare, the finance panel was amazing, remembering back to those PPP applications. Like, we did a lot. Everyone in this room did a lot. And I can't help but wonder, we just bought a hospital, for goodness sakes, our community did. It's kind of amazing what's happened. And so let's think about everything that we talk about through a lens of, what if we stuck with this? What if we didn't just think about this as a crisis, and partnerships that develop quickly with no barriers, where we don't let red tape get in the way, and we just reach out and help each other? We seek to find ways for all of us to give to the solutions. We really have done that the last few years. There's been a lot of hard things, but let's just keep thinking about that mutuality that we heard from Dr. Pastor and Dr. Benner earlier today. I think it's just so important. And rather than kind of repeat a lot of the same activities, I think I would just say that as we, have been an organization in philanthropy, generally a very white organization, thinking about equity became even more important to any philanthropy in the last few years, but certainly that hit home for me leading the Community Foundation. And equity is such a big word and topic and concept, and sometimes I think people feel overwhelmed, and maybe we don't act as much as we could because it feels so big. But when it comes down to it, it's really, is every decision we're making an equitable and just one? Are we influencing decisions to be made that are equitable and just? And everyone in this room has the power to make and influence those decisions. So I just want to encourage us all to think about equity in that way. As what is the decision that you can help make that is more equitable for our neighbors? There are 3 kind of ways that we're working on that really specifically right now that I thought might be interesting. One is just, who are we investing in? Our organization has goals now about the percent of students of color who receive our scholarships. It's about 82%, I think, this year. Our students of color who receive scholarships, who get that helping hand. We know the generational wealth gap is real. We want to help close it through education. We think about our grants. Philanthropy has been really far from people of color-led solutions throughout philanthropy's history. And last year, we were at about 80% of our grants were given to organizations led by people of color. We really think, trying to have that seat at the table, be more inclusive. Who's getting to make decisions about community is really important to us. And then, where are our assets invested? some of our organizations have endowed assets, have the ability to plan for the long term. And we now are tracking our fund managers who are fund managers of color and women. We have gender screened investments. We are really trying to make sure that how we invest our assets matter. And I would just say, getting to work with local financial institutions on that is really fun. Like, we see our capital, our joint capital, become an affordable capital stack for projects that wouldn't get done otherwise. So I love working with County Bank. And Carrie, I just have like 10 ideas I want to share with you after your talk. So, but you know, we can really think about our investments can stay local, they can have an impact, and they can become more just. Again, every decision we make, is it a more just and equitable decision? And then I think finally, how do we make those decisions? Who's at the table? What is that mutuality that we're trying to bring up? And I'm inviting all of you, every person in this room can come to the Community Foundation tonight for our Rise Together celebration, second annual. Our Rise Together members are making decisions about resources in our community together. They're hearing each other's dreams. They're sourcing ideas from communities. And we're just getting funds out there, and we're supporting leaders, and we're supporting those dreams. So we'll have a big celebration of that sense of mutual network of support and care and really building dreams over time. So feel free to come. It's at 6 o'clock if you're heading north anyway. Just have an extra glass of wine here and then come. There'll be performances, food. It'll be wonderful.
Thanks, Susan. Valentine, what can you share with us?
Well, thank you. I'd like to have these folks here be my best friends, I can tell you that. Now, I'm the chairman of the Amah Mutsun Tribal Band and the president of the board of directors of the Amah Mutsun Land Trust. We're a very poor tribe. Majority of our people live at or below poverty in the Fresno, Hanford, Madera areas. And including myself, I drove down here today from just south of Sacramento in a town called Galt. I can't afford to live in this area. I grew up in Morgan Hill, and so I do have roots here, but our tribe has roots here too. Our tribe are comprised of the descendants of those that were taken to Mission San Juan Bautista and Santa Cruz. What I'd like to say is that we started a land trust in 2012, and the purpose of our land trust is protect and conserve our sacred and cultural sites. They're being destroyed all the time. I was at a planning commission meeting 2 days ago, and they took a vote to destroy a very important cultural site of our tribe, and that's just one of many that has happened like that. And then also the other goals are education of our members, education of the public, research to restore that indigenous knowledge that we lost and to restore the true history of our tribe, and then traditional stewardship. Our stewards have been working on the lands here since approximately 2015. And for a while, we were staying in housing at Cascade, at the Cascade Ranch, which is part of Año Nuevo. But during the fires, that house was damaged, and they had to move. And for well over a year, nearly 2 years, our people lived in tents. Our stewards were living in tents year-round, and that was very difficult on them. And they had to try to cook their meals off of stoves, etc. And we wanted to find better housing for them, and we looked as hard as we could. And what we found is a Girl Scout camp that would rent their cabins. And we didn't have money for that. We talked to Santa Cruz Community Foundation and asked them for help, and they came through with housing for our stewards who stayed living there. And that's an example of how the community foundations can help, can help communities in need. And it's very difficult. I said our tribe is very poor. Whenever we bring our people to the coast to participate, we got to pay food. We got to buy them food. We got to give them gas. If they're going to spend the night, we have to find accommodations for them. Just this coming weekend, we're having a ceremony to call home the salmon. And at that ceremony, we have a good number of tribal members coming in for that ceremony. We also have 2 other tribes coming in to join us. And for that, though, we need, we have to find accommodations at the motels for the elders and the disabled. We also have to provide food for them and such like that. And so it's the help that we give that is allowing our tribe to come back to do the work of taking care of our environment, restoring sacredness to the land, allowing our members to have to restore that relationship with the land, and it's and much more. We have to depend on relationships. We have to depend on partnerships. We have to depend on friends. I talked about getting help with the cabins of the Girl Scouts. I want to say one more great way that the Santa Cruz Foundation has helped us. We were looking for a house to buy, and we found a house. And we talked to Susan, and my God, she came through in such a big way. Our tribe now has a house in Bonnie Doon. It is the first property that our tribe has held in our territory since 1791. And that's the difference that these foundations can make.
Thank you, Valentin. That's an amazing example of centering equity. I'm just wondering, what are some other ways that we have centered equity in our work, and how can we maintain that going forward?
That's a very hard question and an important one. And I think it goes back to, as Susan's saying, we've been able to pause during this pandemic. Our breath was literally taken away by what was happening, right? And pause. And then to say, all right, now let's jump in and do this work. And it begins with building relationships, right? And thinking of action as building relationships. It's relational work, as Valentin is saying. And we can only move at the speed of trust. And that means that we have to get to know each other. Mother Teresa says, if we have no peace, it's because we have forgotten that we belong to each other, right? And so it is really important that we take the time to listen and to learn, and to, again, start with ourselves, like sort of the inner workings, and really think deeply about how we are acting and being in the space. It's also, I think, really important as we've been told today to engage and to get involved in different activities. And as we are looking around to see who else is there as well. And if it is not people who have the lived experiences of what is being talked about, stop, pause, and say we have to stop this, and we need to engage and include and co-create with others. And that's what we ended up doing with Regions Rise Together, is we paused because there was not enough people at the table who had the lived experiences, and we restarted. And even now, we're adding, stopping and pausing and redoing some things there as well, because that's how important it is to really center equity and to think about co-creating with those folks who are going to be the most impacted and who have been put at risk. We talk about at-risk people. It's like they have been put at risk by our systems. And so pausing to make sure that they are really at the table, that everyone is at the table.
Thank you, Francine. And this really is the heart of the issue that the Community Foundation for Monterey County has been working on for many years now. We've been doing it through our grant making, but we really have taken the time over the past several years working with our staff, working with our board. We have a staff DEI group. We have a board DEI group working with our staff. We have a monthly book club where we're coming together talking about these issues. And now we are aligning our values with our philanthropy. And so we have updated our strategic plan to reflect these values, as well as how is our grant making, what is this lens, and how can we bring our partners and our donor advisors along with us on this journey. And it is a journey that takes time, it takes patience, and it also takes everybody at the table.
I would say something very similar. Our biggest challenge was just to listen to our community, listen to our nonprofits. We have 175 nonprofits who serve San Benito County. And during the pandemic, we were able to listen to more and more nonprofits, which was unusual because of lack of convening. But with our grant-making process, giving a grant is one thing, but really understanding what the issues is and what their needs are totally different. So we heard about the whole DEI, bring training to our own board, bring training to the nonprofits. And then what they wanted us to do more than anything else was to convene groups together. Now, particularly as we've come out, gathering groups in all different areas, listening to them, and then sharing that with our elected public officials. You know, because we know our elected public officials, and they don't always know, because they're so busy, what's going on in the community. So listening and connect is what we're trying to do more so than ever before.
Thank you. And so specifically when we've been talking today about the economy and economic recovery and equity, can we, in the last couple minutes we have, really talk specifically about what's the role of philanthropy in centering equity around that discussion about jobs, policies, and programs? What is it that our specific sector can do?
I mean, I would start with trust. We could trust people. I think it's so simple, but our central work should be being in relationship with people and making it as easy as possible to access capital. I mean, maybe I can't do it quite as easily as a 3% down payment that Carrie's doing. That was like, but we have a role in resourcing this community, and I think it's a really exciting one, but it's only about relationships. I was talking to Laura Marcus at our table earlier. Like, does this happen in bigger places where you just get to come together and get things done? I don't know. But I hope that everyone here can see their local community foundation or their First Five as a resource for them to get something done. The community foundation only exists because we have partnerships with you. Like, we're totally irrelevant if we're not in relationship with you. If you're not doing something great that I can help bridge a donor's interest to, then I just am bored, So if you keep doing great things and I can help you resource those great things, more great things get done. So I just like to think about our mission, which is to bring together people, resources, and ideas, and just to stay in relationship with all of you is the thing, to me, that both feeds me, but also I think is the lifeblood of our small, tight region that can keep doing better and better.
I think that's exactly it, Susan. I think philanthropy has this unique opportunity to bring different people, different partnerships, the public-private sector together, the ag, the hospitality, the philanthropists, individual donors, as well as private foundations, all coming together to serve the greater good. And I think that's really the role of philanthropy, is to bring these diverse backgrounds, these diverse partnerships to affect the common good.
And I feel like there's a lot of relationships that philanthropy has with those who have. We've seen in this time period that originally everyone was suffering, right? And then it seemed as if the divide got wider. And what we've been seeing in our community is a widening of the socioeconomic divide and situation, right? And so I feel like philanthropy's role, too, is to help those who have more to understand what we were learning earlier, that it's not about the economy stupid, it's about our economy stupid, right? And that we are kind of all in this together, and to support that. And the other things that Chris Brenner and Manuel Pastor talked about in terms of the mutuality and the movements, to bring that all together, that we are bridging and not breaking, and how do we really connect all of those dots.
Thank you. Now, we have 1 minute left, and I want to make sure I give everybody a chance. This will be our lightning round. What's the one thing you want our audience to go away with out of this conversation? Who wants to start?
The one thing, generosity. I saw and I see the incredible generosity of individuals, families, businesses, our community, and it really rose up in the pandemic. And because of the generosity, we were able to do your work on your behalf. And we always say that if we have healthy businesses, then we have healthy nonprofits. So on behalf of a rural community foundation, for all of you who have given so much, I would say thank you.
Say this is an opportunity to get things right. Like we kept hearing today that there's all this money theoretically out there. There's money in the mental health field. There's money in, I wish there was more in the child care and the early childhood field, though, you guys, there really isn't. That this is an opportunity for us to really get this right. And so let's lean in and not be afraid of failing, but to be courageous and to ask questions, to be curious, open, accepting, and loving.
Thank you. Christine?
Yeah, thank you. I agree with all of this. And, you know, we have this infrastructure in place now. We have these collaborations. We have these partnerships. Let's just keep it going. Let's keep moving it forward.
Thank you, Susan. Valentine. Quick.
Yeah, there goes the time. A few things. One is trust. That was said several times here. Trust is really important. And the other thing is relationships. But you need a healthy relationship. To have a healthy relationship, it takes two healthy partners or entities. You cannot have a healthy relationship if one is healthy and one is not. And that means being truthful in everything you say, to listen, and to know when to listen and know when to talk, to know how to problem solve together, to respect each other, and to also recognize the history that the folks have had. In our case, recognize the history. And then finally, you know, because of that brutal history, I like to tell people, and I'll be quick, I like to tell people that, you know, what happened to us is not your fault. We don't blame you for that. We know it's not your fault. But we ask you to recognize how much you have benefited from that brutal history. Every day you wake up, you put your feet on the floor, you're putting your feet on ground that was stolen. What we ask today is help our tribe, help other indigenous people restore their culture, their spirituality, their dignity, their self-esteem, their identity. That's what we ask for today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I want to thank everybody for the opportunity, and I wish we could stay here. That we have a lot more to talk about, but we're not going to. We're going to move on to the next activity. Thank you so much. Thank you, panel.